What's up, guys, and welcome back to my garage. If you're enjoying this series, make sure you leave a like on the video. It'd be greatly appreciated. In the last episode, we picked up this El Camino right here, also known as the Jesse, and we decided that it would probably be best if we just slapped a good old-fashioned American V8 in it. So that's precisely what we're going to do today. The only problem is we don't currently have a V8 for that. So we can go about acquiring that a couple of different ways. Option number one, probably the worst option, is we could spend hours delivering pizzas in the hopes that our barn find would happen to have a V8 in it. Option number two, still not a very solid choice. We could spend a bunch of money. Oh, I need another bottle of water. We could spend a bunch of money by buying each part of the V8 individually and just build one from the ground up. Option number three, we could head over to the dealership and try to find a vehicle with a V8, sort of a donor vehicle. And finally, option number four is we could do the same thing, just at the junkyard instead. I feel like the vehicle we would get from the dealership would obviously be more expensive, but we would have better luck finding a V8 that's mostly intact, whereas the junkyard, we'd probably still have to buy a couple of pieces for it. So let's sleep in just till about 8:30, and we'll make our way over to the dealership. We'll see what we can find today. I really am surprised. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have any luck here. That is probably, yep, turbo diesel. 3-liter turbo diesel. Inline 6. Good engine, just not the engine we're looking for. But I'm really surprised that the El Camino, or the Jesse we bought, didn't already come with a V8. I was surprised to see the 6-cylinder under the hood. So since we've struck out at the dealer today, let's make our way out to the junkyard. Since we are looking for essentially a donor vehicle, the junkyard car might be a little bit cooler than what we could get from, say, the dealership, because it might actually take quite a bit more work to get the shell looking right. None of these are going to have a V8. Dang it. Okay, so we've struck out at the dealer one time. We've struck out at the junkyard one time.
Ray is not happy to see you.
Are you Ray? Are you speaking in third person? Okay, pleasure to meet you, Ray. Let's head back home, and we'll try the dealership a second time. There is actually a fifth option to this, but I don't know if it's actually possible. There are, like, these abandoned vehicles, just shells that you can find kind of scattered around the map. A third car, please. There we go. That could have what we needed, and it does, but it's a little dusted. A 5.6 V8. It's got the 4-speed Manuel gearbox. 647,000 kilometers on this unit. The body doesn't look like it has that many kilometers, but the engine certainly does. What was I talking about before this? Oh, the abandoned vehicles. I don't think there's a high chance that we would find one of those vehicles with an engine inside. From what I've seen, they're more like just shells for the most part. But $14,000 for this guy. We've got a Jesse in the shop right now. This would be our first BART purchase. The other thing that I need to keep in mind is, like, would this vehicle be a good resale for us if it didn't have the V8 and instead had the 3.5 or 3-liter inline 6 that's in the Jesse currently? I don't think it would be terrible. Maybe if it were a Chad, I would be less inclined to do a 6-cylinder swap in it. I think we should just purchase this one. I really, really do. 14,000 isn't that expensive. And worst case, if we don't end up wanting to put the 6-cylinder in it, we could just sell the entire shell as is. We'll get the hood closed up. We'll see if she starts. Oh, the interior on this thing is mangled, dude. We got that good old-fashioned bacon interior. I know you guys have heard of bacon fender. That's what bacon interior looks like. Okie dokie. Yeah, it's got some get up and go. Gotta be real careful driving this thing around. Okay, since we are gonna pull this thing out, I'm actually gonna pull this vehicle. Very loud also. Definitely has an exhaust leak. I'm gonna pull this vehicle just onto the side of the shop here. And we should be able to just reach in here real quick. Disengage the parking brake, and we'll roll this old girl on back. Just before it's about to hit the street. Hopefully there are no cars coming. Seems good, and stop. What the heck? This thing still runs, dude. We can just pull it in and park it on. Whoops. Park it on the opposite side of the shop. Just over here. We want, you know, easy access to this thing, since we are going to be disassembling this engine bay as well. All right, we'll get the BART put up on the hoist. Lift her up just a little bit. Quick shake test here at the front. Seems good. Seems solid, ready to rock. Should we start all the way underneath and then drop it back down, maybe finish up the stuff in the engine bay? Shouldn't be too much in there. Most of everything that we need to unbolt or unfasten is going to be down underneath. So we'll grab our wrench and we'll get after it, starting with probably the transmission brace. I think that should be that bolt there, that guy, and that guy. Oh, there's actually 4 bolts here. Gotcha. And a second one right there on that little brace. Next up, we've got to disconnect this drive shaft. Should be 3 bolts up at the front, and then 3 bolts at the rear. That thing is messed up, dude. That is a rusty boy. Makes me feel good that this is just a donor vehicle and not like the showroom ready vehicle that we're trying to make. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and I just realized I'm gonna have to do the same thing for the Jessie, where we'll put it up into the air just so we can drop the transmission and engine out that way. So let's get on with it. I believe that is all we need to do there. Let's dismount the 2 exhausts. Those will just pop off. They can fall on the floor. We don't need those where we're going. And then engine mounts and radiator hoses, I believe, should be just about the last thing that we need to disconnect. Maybe fuel line too, if those are actually accessible. We'll see. Drop it back down to the ground. Oh, dude, the exhaust on this thing's kind of sick. I didn't notice the square exhaust tips. Looks a little rad. Alrighty, and just like that, we should be about ready to actually remove the engine itself. Just have that bolt there, or that nut there, and that one on the other side, and there we go, taking the heart out the beast. And this guy now, we've got to somehow get onto the engine stand. The other engine doesn't matter, we can just set it on the floor for now. This is the important thing, that we get this thing up here and ready to be disassembled and then very, very shortly reassembled. Looks like we're going to need a new starter as well if we want to continue using that 4-speed transmission. Fuel line came off, no problem. And then upper hose. The lower hose, totally fine. Upper hose definitely needs replaced. The engine bay in this thing is actually pretty clean, all things considered. I should probably move the drive shaft and the exhaust off just somewhere else so we can get that other vehicle brought up here next. It's nice that the steering wheel actually like holds its position when you hop in and turn the wheel. So then when your vehicle like this one doesn't have an engine in it, you can actually still move it around pretty easily. And you don't need like somebody else to come in and steer the thing for you. We could probably just leave it outside, actually. Let me straighten out the wheel here one mo again. And we'll just kind of bring it straight back. We can leave it parked next to the building. Chill, chill, chill. Now that we've got the Jessie up on the hoist, just got to get the arms in place. But I've got a little bit of bad news. You remember how we did just a little bit of brake work to old girl in the previous episode? Well, I probably did something incorrect because we have absolutely no brakes. And the entire time that I was trying to pull it into the garage, I was having to use the parking brake or the emergency brake just to slow down. So we'll have to check that out, you know, before we add all these horse puppies to this thing. And I think I just figured it out. There's no fluid. There is absolutely no fluid left in the reservoir for our brake master cylinder, which means one or maybe several of the lines might be loose, which is why we have no brakes. So that's good. That's good to see. But like I said, we've just got to get under here now and do pretty much the same procedure we just did on the BART now on the Jessie. Alrighty, that should be the last of everything that needs to be removed. So, now we can undo those two nuts and hoist the 6-cylinder now out of that engine bay as well. Also, I did notice why we lost all of our brake fluid, and it's my own stupidity. I forgot to tighten, like, the main brake line to the whole system. So, glad we have an explanation at least. I'm just that dumb. But the good news is we actually have a decent starter here on this 4-speed gearbox. It happens to be the exact same gearbox that came out of the Bart over there. So we're honestly looking pretty good. I think the only thing we really would need to purchase... Oh no, never mind. I was going to say was an upper hose, but this also fits the V8, so we could just reuse that as well. But over here now to this engine... What we've got to do is just disassemble it down to the block, down to the bare block, and then we'll figure out what parts we actually need to buy brand new, and we can add those on afterwards. But it's going to be a lot of work getting this thing up and running. Well, we had quite a few different pleasant surprises, actually, during the disassembly of this. The only thing I haven't looked at yet is going to be the camshaft. It's totally fine, dude. Mint, actually. So, first pleasant little surprise there. Camshaft, obviously, in good working order. But then also, every single piston and connecting rod, totally fine. Most everything that was actually damaged, I guess, was contained to the cylinder heads, the oil pan, obviously, and only one of the head gaskets was bad. I might end up getting both just to, you know, be on the safe side, but I think it'll be all right. Also, all the spark plugs completely fine. Most of the timing components completely fine. A few electrical components, the typical distributor, ignition coil, but then the entire carburetor, the entire throttle mechanism, that whole thing is dusted. One exhaust manifold, the intake manifold, and then, of course, the rockers inside of those cylinder heads. So, what we need to do now is purchase everything you see here on the floor and on this cart, brand spanking new from the store. But before we do that, I actually want to head outside and check in on the Bart. Now that it doesn't have an engine, it's still 10 grand. And keep in mind, I haven't touched this thing. We haven't even cleaned any of the rust off of the shell. Still $10,000. What did we pay for this? Was it 14 or was it 17? I can't remember. So either a $7,000 engine or a $4,000 engine, depending on the purchase price, of course. I'm going to take a mental inventory of all this stuff, and we'll see if I can buy it all in one fell swoop from the store. I'm just going to stick to the engine category for the time being, and we'll start from the top. And as we scroll and come across things, we'll just go ahead and purchase them. I feel like that's the best way to go about doing things. And head cover right. If I remember correctly, it did have a cap on it, so we're going to purchase one of those. Can we, all this orange stuff, can we spray that? Like, could we color that maybe? And left head, right head for sure. New distributor, that looks weird. Maybe ours isn't supposed to be black, but it is. We'll try it. I'll purchase it. 82 bucks. What's the worst that could happen? The exhaust for the left side, or was it the right side? I want to say it's the right side. I might end up getting a lot of this wrong. Gearbox is fine. Harmonic balancer was fine. One head gasket. We do need just the one of those. We need a new ignition coil, new intake manifold, oil pan. Surprisingly, the oil filter was completely fine. Two separate sets of rockers. Starter, we have a replacement for from the donor vehicle. Is that the intake manifold that we were actually needing? I don't think so. This definitely looks a bit more correct. If we scroll back up to that carburetor, hopefully that's the one that we needed as well. I don't know. Oh, here we go, dude. Now we're getting into the stuff that we definitely don't need, but someday, mark my words, we're going to install a blower system onto this V8, this very same vehicle. It's just got to happen. It really does. So I think I bought everything. Let me just go out to the cart and do another quick check. Okay, intake manifold does seem to be right. Exhaust manifold for the right side. Carburetor is just called carburetor, so there's no shot we could have got that wrong. Okay, I think we actually got everything we need. Wait a minute. I just spent not a lot of time, but a decent amount of time carrying each part individually, one by one, from in here into the garage when I completely forgot that we have a freaking backpack that we probably could have just shoved everything inside of and then spat out once we got back into the garage. But before we start reassembly now, I want to try to respray just the oil pan, just as a little test. I feel like I've tried this before and didn't have any success. Yeah, that doesn't seem to work. So how then is this oil pan a different color than this one, yet they're the same thing? Maybe they need to be, like, bolted up before you spray them? So by that logic, we should be able to respray the block. Okay, that's not working either. I guess it's just not a thing. If any of you know if that's a possibility, if there's some sort of way that you can actually respray engine components without mods, let me know down in the comments. I am very, very curious. I feel like it would really, really upgrade our build quality overall. But let's get old girl reassembled and put in her new vehicle. Also, quick sidebar, now that I know that the rockers actually come from the factory all black, I don't think the original ones were even bad. But I'm going to use the brand new ones just in case. Tell you guys the truth, that went back together surprisingly easy. So now I think we're ready to disconnect it from the engine stand and get it dropped back in, or actually dropped in for the very first time inside of the El Camino. It looks right at home here. I'm sure you could probably find, oh, the lag there. I'm sure you could probably find a Jesse that already has a V8 in it. But now, just with the engine in the vehicle, we're looking at $19,000. But overall condition, still 3 stars. We've got some more work to do. What is this? Actually, what is this, dude? The camshaft sprocket completely fell out of the thing. Okay, I don't want to do this in the vehicle though. So I'm actually going to unbolt it again and we'll get it put back on the engine stand. I guess I just forgot to tighten the one bolt, and that made it so the camshaft sprocket just stayed behind when we took the entire thing off the stand. You know, at least we didn't have any fluids in it just yet. Gotta look at the bright side, right? Okay, now with any luck, that'll be the only thing that I forgot to tighten. But I'm curious to know now, once we get this refastened to the chassis. God, and the frame rate drop again, dude. Every time we go to change this engine, I guess the game has to really process what it is we're trying to do. Okay, almost 20, but 4-star overall condition now instead of just 3. So we've got that going for us, which is nice. Let's grab this upper hose, get that thing resituated, and then the lower. This is actually from the other engine, but I just figured we could reuse some components, you know, save a little bit of money. We're just missing one last bolt on the starter, so I'm going to grab the transmission, and we'll get that Made it up to the engine with just 4 bolts. Easy peasy. Now underneath, we've got this one transmission mount bracket. 4 bolts on the bracket there, and then 2 into the bottom of the transmission. I think that's all we needed there. Now, though, oh, that exhaust, dude. That exhaust actually isn't going to work. So we might have to use the exhaust that we took off of the Bart. But we can get our drive shaft reinstalled. 3 bolts at the front, 3 bolts at the rear, and we are almost done. Well, we have to add fluids and everything else like that. But let's see if this exhaust will even work. And will it look good? Ooh, it does not look great. I'm going to be honest. It should be exiting like past the bumper, and it's exiting just before it. So I might have a quick look through the catalog just to see if there are any better alternatives. They're a bit expensive, but I do think they'll properly fit the Jessie, whereas the ones we have right now definitely do not. There we go. There we go, dude. Now we're talking. See, that looks more like it. But I think we're done now underneath. So we'll lower it back down, make sure it has all the fluids that it needs, everything like that, and we can take it out for its first ever rip. And I also really do want to see like what the overall value of it is after we do the fluids, after everything is all said and done. That way we can see what the total price is really going to be with a fresh V8 swap. I've already used up all the coolant that we had on hand, so we need to buy another one of them. Probably 3, maybe 4 bottles of oil, and then we definitely need some food up in here. Bad. Oh, and also maybe 2 more bottles of brake fluid, but we can get those tossed in the backpack. We are ready to go, dude. Just 3 bottles of oil later. Let's see how we're doing. That seems perfect. Bang on, just how we need it. Get our cap put back on there. And then this guy, our nemesis. The fluid that's currently inside this thing does look a little dirty, but I'm just going to add some new stuff on top of it, and hopefully it still works great. I think now we've reached max fill, and the only reason I know that is because our FPS has been cut in half, just about. So when we apply the cap, there it comes back up. 130, 140, thereabouts. All right, let's check in on the total value. Nearly $21,000 now outfitted with a 5.6 V8 and a 4-speed manual transmission. The real question, though, is does it have brakes now? I'm going to do a quick save, just in case I end up completely totaling the thing. But we'll hop behind the wheel, and turn her over. Okay, I was a little nervous right there. For some reason, it didn't want to turn over right away. All right, brake test. They do be stopping. They do be stopping. They don't grab like super hard. Where are our lights at? There we go. They don't grab super hard, but they're decent brakes. At least I don't have to use the parking brake now, dude. That was an absolute disaster. Oh yeah, this thing drives great. It actually drives really, really nice. I'm pretty happy with this. To be honest though, it does still sound a little bit like the inline 6 sounded. You know what I'm saying? Like, for some reason they have the same tone when they definitely shouldn't. But there you guys have it. Our V8 transplant officially finished in the El Camino, otherwise known as the Jessie. So next episode we do still have the inline 6, the straight 6 over here, and we also still have this bare shell. So hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, help support the dream by smashing that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Peace.